Welcome to the Time to Practice Summer Edition. This series is meant to give you a little weekly burst of inspiration, motivation, or food for thought about music learning and music practice for young musicians each week before we restart Season 4 in September. You'll hear tips from past expert guests, listeners, and even, I hope, tips from young musicians themselves this year, and I can't wait to share them with you. Whenever you listen to this episode, whether it's in the summer or throughout the year, I hope these episodes speak to you and give you actionable advice that you can use. This episode is made possible by my webinar, Helping Students Develop Focus and Attention. This pre-recorded talk is about an hour or so long, and it discusses challenges related to attention, concentration, and focus in music practice and lessons. And it also shares some ways that we can help students or children as they develop these skills. You can sign up to purchase at the individual rate or at the studio rate. I will put a link to those in the show notes. They're also on the main page of my website, suzukitriangle.com. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to be continuing on with our summer edition of the podcast where we're sharing tips about practice and motivation. And I'm excited to welcome today our special guest, Annie Reed. And Annie is a performing musician, a music educator, early childhood educator, and also the parent of young musicians. So she brings a lot of different perspectives, and I can't wait to have her share some ideas with us today. Welcome, Annie. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I feel like I've made it. I got on your podcast.
Too
It's
funny.
it's so fun. And I just wanted to share that your podcast has really impacted my studio. I think I shared a quote once at a recital, like as a welcome, and I said, "Oh, according to, the Type for Practice podcast, blah blah blah." And then parents came up to me and said, "My husband said we have to go find that podcast and listen now." So I'll always remember that.
Aw, that means a lot because I sit here in my little closet recording, and it's sometimes like, is this helping anyone? Is anyone listening to this?
Absolutely.
That means a lot to hear that story, and I'm glad you're here because I know you have so many great things to share. Is there anything you would add to my introduction that you think would help listeners to know about yourself?
I think you covered it all. And to expand on young musicians, I have three young musicians, ages 9, 5, and 2. And right now, I am the main teacher for them. My oldest is a violinist, and she's been studying with an amazing teacher, actually, my teacher trainer. But we're on a summer hiatus, so I'm kind of taking over the teacher role. And then I'm also teaching my son cello, and I have not passed him on to another teacher yet. I do plan to, but it's been kind of interesting being in the parent and teacher seat 100% of the time. I haven't had that experience yet. And then my 2-year-old just kind of plays whatever instrument they want to play. We have a little cello and we have a little violin, and she just bounces back and forth. So we'll see where she ends up. I think viola.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
It is a whole different thing to teach your own kids.
Absolutely.
And I think as teachers, it's a whole different thing to parent our own kids on their music journey than it is to be in that teacher only seat too.
Yeah,
So,
for
um,
sure.
well, what would you like to share with listeners today about music practice? I can't wait to hear what you have to share with us today.
Yeah. I'm really excited because we also homeschool, so I'll share that too. And I think that makes it a challenge because I'm my kids' teacher for not just music. I'm their teacher for other subjects. And so sometimes our homeschool routine looks different than our practice routine, and sometimes we try to integrate both of them, and sometimes one will be working better than the other. And I'm really excited that over the last, I think it's been about 3 or 4 months now, we've gotten a practice routine that has stuck. Like we've tried so many different practice routines, and the way that I stumbled upon it and that we put it into practice actually had to do with my kids' interest in video games.
Mm,
And I am going to give a shout out to a book that I really liked and highly recommend. It's called Power On by Ash Brandon, I believe is the correct name. And they have an Instagram account called The Gamer Educator. And our family is a video game family. Like my husband and I both grew up playing like family video games like Nintendo. And As much as I admire those who are able to be screen free, that's just not our reality. So we have a family Switch, a Nintendo Switch in the living room that the kids love to play on, and that's like our family recreation time. It's how we kind of bond together in the evenings. So my 9-year-old has started to get really good at one of her games and she started to get really into it. And that's all she talked about. And I know this can be very developmentally appropriate for these kind of pre-teens to get really deep into something and want to talk about it all the time. And so I was following the advice of this author and, influencer, and they said, well, once your kid like learns about video games and likes video games, you can use those skills to your advantage and gamify other aspects of their lives. And it's working for my son too. We just have now a routine. I don't want to call it a rule or a punishment or anything, but it's in order for video games to become available for the day, practice has to have been done. And we don't push them to practice. I'm not saying like, hey, get your practice done so you can play video games. It's an intrinsic motivator now. And the first, I wish I put it on my Instagram. So if you wanted to find exactly what I wrote, I could find it. But I kind of cataloged like the first 3 days of trying this with my 5-year-old son. And the first day he complained and he whined. He's like, I just want to play Animal Crossing. I just want to play. And we just kept very neutral. Like, just like if you're playing a video game and you don't have enough coins to get to the next level, the video game's not going to negotiate with you. It's like, sorry, you don't have enough coins, can't go to the next level. So that's kind of what our role was as the parents. Like, okay, it's not, you haven't ticked the box yet. And we had to be really defined about what a practice was. So he's more advanced in piano. So we said, okay, you have to have this many review songs and this new song. And then he's much more beginner on cello. So he only had his twinkles. So we said, okay, you have to play two twinkles. And those two things just had to be done. And then he had to play video games. He got to play video games if he wanted to. And then, of course, like limiting the time and amount and all of that is a whole other story. And I really like that book because it goes into detail about that without shaming. So, but just the access, like controlling the access and linking it to practice, I didn't know how it was going to go, but a couple months in, it's working really well. Do you have any questions about that before I kind of keep going into details?
No, I love that real life example. And I think that is just what life is like for responsible adults in the world. Like we have things we love to do and can't wait to do. And I know myself, I'm like, okay, after I do XYZ that must be done, or that's my job or whatever it is, then I'm gonna, okay, I will have time for this other thing that I love. So I think it's really great modeling maybe priorities or, I do think people worry you have this like mental picture or this like caricature out there of like the kid that's in the basement playing video games and not doing any other partaking in society kind of
Exactly.
activities, which is I realize that's such a caricature, but
Yeah.
um, there's a worry that what if they just become this is all they do, and so I really like that we're also modeling if we have a setup like this can be part of your life. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but also there's other things we're gonna do, right? There's life to be lived on top of that.
Exactly. Like there are other skills to develop. I mean, even if they were going to go into video game design or something and they needed to practice video games and all that, that's great, but we want our kids to be well-rounded, we don't just put them in one thing. So kind of gamifying practice has really helped us. Like there are no arguments about practice anymore. There is no negotiating. There's no, well, I only want to do two songs instead of five, or it's just everybody knows the rules and it almost is it gives me that feeling of that example of freedom within limits. Like
Mhm.
imagine somebody gave you a blank canvas. I love this analogy, and they just said paint, and you're kind of overwhelmed because you could do anything and you don't know if it's supposed to be right or wrong or what it was. But if they say paint using only red and black, like, okay, phew, that gives me some room to breathe a little bit because it's less decision making for me.
Right.
So when we give the kids that, okay, you could play video games, but it has to be after you've done this correct or this, this practice, then that frees them up to just, okay, well, it's practice time now. And if I want to play video games, I'll practice. And then I'm noticing that my kids are enjoying practice more. That's the benefit I didn't
Mhm.
expect. is that, well, we know this, the more you practice, the more, you enjoy playing your instrument and you're getting better at your instrument and they're learning their pieces faster, like way faster than if we were just nagging and, negotiating. And they are learning like songs out of the repertoire by ear. And my daughter just got a piece that she's supposed to learn for Institute. And she just learned it in 2 days because I think she was hungry for something new.
I love that.
Yeah.
There is like this cycle of motivation that comes from, oh, we've practiced and we
Mhm.
see progress and oh, that feels good. Now I actually kind of want to practice because I like the feeling I get after, but the
Yeah.
progress I'm making, it can be a really wonderful thing. And that kind of has to come from inside too. You're talking about intrinsic motivation
Mhm.
before about the practice, but also just the motivation to do more practice for its own sake
Absolutely.
often will come from something like this later. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't finish the story earlier about my son. It was like day one, he whined, and day two, he whined, and day three, he whined, and then day four, there was less whining, and then one day was really funny because he's younger. He didn't quite understand that he once you practiced, then video games were available for the day. I think he thought it was a one-to-one thing. So he practiced in the morning and then played video games right after. Then we kind of went around our day and he wanted to play again in the evening. And without saying or asking
Mm.
anything, he just went and picked up his cello and played two more songs because he thought that he would like it's kind of like a transaction. Like, oh, if I want to play again, I have to practice again. And I didn't say anything because I said, oh, great, he's picking up his cello and playing his songs the way he wants to. And it was really funny. I don't know if that's happened again. I think he figured out that it's okay, but it was really cute the first time. I'm trying to put myself in the position if I was hearing someone else explain this to me, like one of the worries I might have had was, well, what if they just say, oh, I don't want to play video games today, and then they don't practice? That has happened. I would say it happens on average one most average, like the highest would be once a week,
Mm.
maybe once every 2 weeks that has happened. And usually because we have a really busy day and video games aren't on their mind. And so, because we have this consistent routine where they are practicing every day, the stress of me thinking, oh my gosh, we missed a day, like I don't have that stress anymore because the routine is super established. And whatever the routine that somebody sets up is, if it gets, I feel like we're in the flow state now where it's just going, and I'm totally prepared for something to pop up and shift it all, and we have to reorient, right? I feel like that's what we always have to do. But right now we're in a flow state, and I'm not worried about them missing a day because I know they've had, 3 months of very consistent practice, and like one day missed is not gonna derail all the good things we've set up. So that's something that like just honestly has been really working for our family and I've been really excited that we are not fighting about practicing right now.
Oh yeah, what a
Yeah.
fabulous tip. Could you say the name? I have this book on request from the library because I follow the same person on Instagram. But could you just mention one more time if people are listening and thinking like, "Oh, I do want to try this," and they want to read more?
Yeah, the Instagram handle is the gamer educator and the book is called Power On. And the author's name is Ash Brandon. I think it's Brandin. And the book obviously talks about how to make video games work for your life, but I really appreciate the just kind of ripping off the stigma of screens because screens are everywhere. I mean, unless we go live in a very remote Amish community, we're not going to be able to avoid them in our lives and just accepting that they're not evil. And it's up to us as parents to, I think they had an ABC checklist, and I remember the A stands for access. So we can control like the access, the type of screens and games they have, and the content. I think that was the C was content. I can't remember what B is right now, but you have to go read the book. And also accepting that screens are used for families that maybe don't have the luxury of babysitters or family around to watch their kids. So they use a screen so that I love the example of if you need a screen to be able to cook your family a healthy dinner, but you needed the screen to watch your kid while you cooked it, then that's worth it, you know? So I really like how the author kind of breaks down a lot of negativity. Like, why do we have such negativity about screens? Because you can't really say screens and it means all the same thing. There's so much different content out there. I mean, right now, you and I are on a screen for good to help people. So I that book has helped me release a lot of like guilt, apparent guilt. And then to be able to utilize it and gamify our routines because my kids love games. I mean, what kids don't love games, even if they're not into screens, they're into board games or playground games. They have rules and they have expectations, and it's like very easy for the kids to understand and enjoyable.
Yes, I know. I love that. Megan Orton, who's a digital wellness expert who was a Suzuki teacher for a couple of decades, came
Mhm.
on earlier this season talking about screen time and music practice specifically. But what really struck me a couple of things she said, but one being that this is really the first generation of parents that have had to really decide what are our boundaries or our rules or our family. How is our family going to interact with screens in the same way because they are so much everywhere? And there are people trying to incentivize us to never put the screen down, which
Mhm.
is a different issue than we're talking about at this moment. But it's not like
No.
something like we saw our own parents set limits for in the way that you're right now, Annie, having to talk about. So it feels like a bigger issue because nobody's
Yeah.
modeled this for us. Like the reality is really different. And it's a new territory really of parenting.
Exactly. You're making me think of the word pioneer. Like we were really pioneering how to integrate all our technology, and I guess screens or technology into our daily life, but keeping it in a healthy way. Because I mean, as a kid, I watched a lot of TV. It was just
Sure.
on, and I don't ever remember being told, no, you can't watch TV. Like it was just there. Like everybody did it, and everybody played games, and it
Right.
wasn't seen as, I don't know, too much because it probably wasn't too much at that point. But now it's getting into our lives so much more than it used to.
And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And then, in fact, if we don't ever talk about it because we're just like, oh, we're just never going to interact with this, maybe our kids don't learn the skills of how to
Hmm.
healthily interact with it themselves. So we're really modeling how are you going to live in this digital screen filled world and have a,
Yeah,
balanced life within that.
exactly. And how do you want your other hobbies and interests like music or sports to relate to your leisure time activities? That's another thing I really liked is that the author really kept the language neutral about playing games or watching screens because we all need leisure time. We all need to relax. And why is reading a book better than watching a show? It you can do both. So it
Right.
doesn't like kids need leisure time too. And if their preferred leisure time is playing a relaxing video game, that we don't need to make that positive or negative. It's just that's how they want to spend their leisure time, and we can control what that video games are allowed, what kind are allowed in our house, just like you would books and movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. Such a great conversation. Thanks. I'm sure this will speak to many parents listening. And maybe if there's teachers who are not parents themselves, maybe give some perspective on what parents might be thinking about and
Yeah,
grappling with related to practice and structuring our time at home.
exactly. And I'm excited to hear any feedback or other ideas on like how to harness that gamifying with any other routines and with our kids' lives. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to connect with you, Annie, after our conversation today, where can people find you?
Yeah, my Instagram, I'm probably good on Instagram is Ripon Suzuki. I don't know if it's Ripon Suzuki Strings. I think that's what it is. Ripon is Ripon and then Suzuki Strings. That's my Instagram handle, but my website is riponsuzuki.com. And both of those have ways to connect with me. Yeah, I'd love to hear any other ideas about this subject. It's kind of one of my, special interests because we're such a game family and such a music family, and we've found a way to make them work together.
I love that. I'm sure there's many people that will relate to that. We'll put a link to those in the
Yeah,
show
that'd be
notes so
great.
people can reach out, and we'll put a link in the show notes if you're listening to the where to find that book and the handle for the expert who wrote it, so that you can follow up. Because I think even their Instagram has a lot of practical advice you could start with as you're finding the book.
Yeah. And I will say that the author has said that they're also a violinist.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know about if they have experience with Suzuki or not, but I've heard them mention that a few times, which is so cool.
Yeah, very cool. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us today. I'm sure your ideas will help many people. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, You can help grow the podcast by sharing with a friend or a colleague or your teacher, if you're a teacher with the students in your studio. And we appreciate your support and sharing and helping spread the word so we can get this information out to as many people as we can. I'm wishing you all a wonderful week ahead in your practice. Take very good care.